All right, guys, so I got to talk to you a little bit today about electric cars. So in Canada, they've just laid out the plan as to how they are going to be cutting and banning, I guess, the sale of gas-powered cars by the year of 2035. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about gas cars, electric vehicles, green technology, climate change in general, I guess, and our consumption. I don't think that this is the antidote. I'm going to make videos about this in the future. There's clearly climate change. First of all, I 100% am a climate change believer. 100% humans are influencing it, and we need to change our ways in order to prevent it from getting much, much worse. And every year we see more and more storms getting worse and worse, and it's definitely huge. It's a bad thing. I'm not into it. Okay, so moving forward from that, I think that we are kidding ourselves. And I think that most people on both sides of the political spectrum are kidding themselves to think that gas powered vehicles or electric vehicles are the problem or the solution. Because obviously, gas is not great. Obviously, fracking and drilling for oil is bad for the environment. And obviously, burning fossil fuels is a polluting thing that is damaging to the environment in many respects, clearly. But the problem is that people think that electric cars and that green technologies are somehow better because they don't see anything being pulled from the ground. Because when you buy an electric car, it comes with the batteries in it already, and you don't have to fill up at the pump every time to get it. I'm going to definitely make a video just on electric cars, but I wanted to just make something quick about this. This is not a good idea, phasing out gasoline cars and switching it to electric, because you're really just switching the damage that you're doing elsewhere. Yeah, there won't be as much fracking and there won't be as much need for the Alberta tar sands here in Canada, right? There won't be as much need for destruction here at home, but there will be just as much destruction moved elsewhere. Batteries are really bad for the planet too. There's many precious metals that need to be pulled out of the earth, and most of the time they're pulled out of the earth by hands elsewhere. And in a lot of cases, they're pulled out of the ground by slave labor in African countries. That's not great. That's definitely not great. But the thing is, people here are able to offshore their environmental toll and pat themselves on the back that they're doing better with green technologies. People think that by switching to green technologies like electric cars, they can still have their Hummer. They can still have their giant Ford pickup truck that they don't need living in a suburb and driving their kids to hockey practice. But they'll just electrify it and suddenly they can feel better about it. It basically gives people a free pass to go on doing damage to the environment and not really thinking about the consumption, because when it comes down to it, that is the main problem. Our consumption levels is the main problem. You can drive whatever car you want if you don't drive it very much. If you cut your driving down to 1/10 of the amount that you do now, it doesn't really matter what kind of car you're driving, because you're doing 1/10 of the driving you were before. You're doing 1/10 of the damage. And that's kind of where I'm at with how I'm trying to live my life, is that I'm trying to own as little as possible. I'm trying to drive as little as possible. I buy pretty old used cars that are gas powered, and I don't put too much gas in them, and I don't drive them very much. And I try to eat from scratch. I try to not eat processed food that's shipped from around the world. I try to buy locally if I can, when I'm buying produce, if I can find it affordably. I try to eat in a way that is going to be the least damaging to the environment as possible. And obviously, I also advocate for heavier regulation on companies, because you can't just make it all individual change. There needs to be some systemic changes that are going to take place if we're going to fix this climate catastrophe that we're in. We're honestly kidding ourselves if we think that if we're switching our Hummer to an electric Hummer, or a Ford F-150 to a Ford Lightning, that we are somehow saving the planet. You're kidding yourself. And honestly, you shouldn't feel bad if you're kidding yourself, because 80 to 90% minimum of people in the Western world are kidding themselves about this. They either just think that their consumption doesn't matter whatsoever, and they'll drive their gas-powered Hummer and they'll do whatever damage they want to do because they don't believe that they're actually impacting the planet whatsoever. Or there's people who are, I would say, almost as bad, who are on the left side of things, and they think that they can buy their electric car, put their solar panel on their house, probably drive an electric pickup truck, eat whatever they want because it's free range, and then be sanctimonious about it, right? So yeah, I see this as a wrong direction for the world, that countries are trying to ban gas-powered vehicles and they're trying to move to a fully electric fleet of vehicles, because if we're not carpooling, if we're not sharing rides, if we're not taking public transit more, if we're not investing in public transit, or if we're not walking or riding our bicycles more, if we're all driving our own butts around in these big vehicles, whether they're powered by gas or whether they're powered by electricity, it doesn't matter. That's not going to save the world. What's needed is everyone to cut their consumption down by a huge percentage, which is going to be, as I said, for sure topics of later videos. And more than that, they need to cut their consumption down by a huge percent. But we also need to completely change our culture, because our culture is completely about marketing the newest thing to people, perceived obsolescence, actual planned obsolescence of products where they actually fall apart. So you buy a new one, right? Just constantly needing to produce to grow the economy in order for it to keep moving. This stuff just all spells environmental destruction, and you can't just switch it to a green product, quote unquote green product, and think that that's going to make everything okay, because much more needs to change. I think the world is under the spell of green technology right now. I'm okay with having solar panels. Okay, like if I get my off the grid property set up, I'm going to probably have a solar panel and a battery bank, just to take a little bit more control of our energy consumption by, being the one who harvests the energy from the sun with the panels, and not just having it on tap from the grid, right? I don't mind that. But it's the fact that we think that we can just switch and not change our consumption habits at all, not cut back on our consumption whatsoever. That's the delusion. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Just a quick video on this topic because I saw it and I thought it was worth bringing up. I want to hear from you guys in the comments if you agree with what I'm saying, or if you want to add to it, or if you disagree, whatever. I want to hear from you. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.